I call them like a little pocket bearded dragon. However, they are completely unrelated to bearded dragons, but so are the little froglets. Oh my goodness. Nope. Let's go. You guys already know what time it is. It is coffee time, and that means it is Reptile Room Tour for March 2024. Holy crap, this year is already going insanely fast. And while you guys are watching this, I'm going to be in the jungles of Colombia. So make sure you leave in the comments down below what you'd like to see from Colombia. And there's a good chance that I just might be able to film that for you. So without further ado, let's get on with the Reptile Room Tour. What? Wait, why are you guys down there? Just before we get onto the Reptile Room Tour, I do have a little something I need to talk about. And that certain thing is the responsibility of owning more than 100 reptiles all in one room. Because take it from me, before you try it yourself, it is not easy. It truly is a full-time job. And I mean that in the sense that there are two of us working in this reptile room. Both myself and my partner Bree are responsible for this reptile room and all the animals that we have in it. That's my little disclaimer before the video starts. Also, new merch will be dropping soon. Stay tuned. It will be coming very soon. And yeah, we have a lot to talk about. First, let's get some coffee. Now, the room that you are seeing right now holds about 130 to 140 animals, if we're counting all the individual babies and everything like that. It can be kind of hard to count sometimes because the Mourning Geckos and whatnot. There's just so much going on that I think we should start with the Ratsnake in the room. This tank is a 361824 Exoterra, and it houses our subadult, I guess, red-tailed Ratsnake Kalea. You guys can see her there. Absolutely stunning coloration on her. And she is a Borneo locale, so she's not the typical red-tailed green rat that you guys see. And she's not too happy that I'm here, as you can tell by that tongue flick. But I won't be here too long, I promise. She's doing fantastic. She actually just went through a shed. And some of you might be asking, well, where did that shed go? And I would love to answer, because we left the shed in her tank, and she shed about 2 days ago, and it is gone. The cleanup crew in here has completely devoured it, eaten it all, and have used it for their own benefit, so nothing to complain about there. If you guys are kind of long-time viewers, you guys will know that we actually do have two red-tailed rat snakes, a pair of them. The male is actually out at one of our friends' house being a little bit of a stud with another beautiful female that we're hoping produces some captive eggs, because I think that would be extremely beneficial to the hobby. There are a lot of these guys coming in, and there's a lot of not necessarily great advice going around on the internet. So if you guys want a dedicated video to these, definitely let me know. I'd be very interested in doing that, although I would definitely need Bree's approval, because she's the one with the most knowledge on these, as these are her dream snakes. And you can see why. I mean, look at that. Not happy with me at all, but still beautiful. And now if you guys are even longer term viewers of this channel, you'll notice that the rat snake tank still hasn't really been started. We've just been doing so many projects. This is Bree's project. I'm waiting for her to be like, all right, babe, let's get going. And I will certainly help her with this build. However, that is her kind of prerogative. It's a 4x2x4 custom built by Hammer Habitat's enclosure. It looks sick. It'll look even sicker when it's actually built, and then we can repurpose the top of this tank for maybe another tank, or just redo her tank to be a dwelling for the pair of Boiga that we have chilling up there right now. But that's enough of the rat snake talk. We know that this tank hasn't been done yet. You will hear me several times throughout this video mentioning new upgrades and things changing in the room, and that is because that is one of the beauties of this hobby, is that it is truly an ever-changing thing, and that's what holds our attention. We love building new enclosures for animals, setting up babies, going through the trials and tribulations of getting them to eat. It's a lot of fun and a lot of work, so we are working on it, don't you worry. Just know that that'll be coming later in the video. And just before we swing into the frogs here, let's all take a sip of our drinks. Whatever you're drinking, coffee, beer, wine, water, probably the healthiest option, but you know, let's take a sip and continue on. And what do we have going on in here? It looks like a frog stack. I think it is. Blumby and Glumby. These guys are our Mexican tree frogs, Mexican giant tree frogs, Galeichnus dacny color. There's a reverse trio of them in here, a 2.1, which means 2 males and 1 female. You can tell the size difference. of the male, who's chilling on top, and the female, who is the bottom in this case. They are currently in a 24-18-36 Exoterra. I bought it years ago, a couple years ago now, off of one of my viewers, turns out. I showed up at his house to pick this up, and he's like, hey, I think I watch your videos. So if you're happening to watch this, thank you very much. It is growing in very well. It's doing great. We did replace some wood. We got new plants in the enclosure, but overall, they are doing fantastic. Recently, Bree made some upgrades to their tank, put on a heat lamp as well as UVB, and that has greatly increased their basking, just their overall well-being as far as we can tell. They look healthier. You can tell that they kind of just chill for most of the time. They were fed yesterday. Speaking of feeding, if you guys want to see most of the reptiles in the reptile room feeding, besides the hognose, because they are all information, definitely go check out the last video I posted. That was an entire feeding video where I show you guys all the processes and the feeding protocol that we go through. But for now, we're just talking about these guys. They are a fantastic species from the coast of Mexico, and some are even found down further south into kind of Central America. But these guys are a very cool project of Bree's. Their names are Gumby, Blobby, and I don't even remember the third one's names. I change them every video for those of you that aren't into the inside joke. Now you are. I change them every time I say their name because I think it's hilarious. There's my terrible sense of humor for you. That's enough chatting about them. So this is a large 110-gallon custom-built vivarium by myself. I built the entire tank. I built all of the background. I did everything in this tank, and I'm so happy with how it's growing in. If you guys want to check out the original video, I'll also leave that on the screen right now, as well as a link in the description for you guys to go view and enjoy, because it is one heck of a video. But this tank is growing in super, super well. And not only are the plants growing in well, but so are the little froglets. Oh my goodness. Guys, we have done it. We have produced the very first Oophaga histronica Fuego in Canada. Not only just one, I think you're the only one that's actually out right now, but we actually have 3 froglets that I know about. I haven't gone searching through the tank very drastically recently. I just noticed that there are, in fact, 3 of them not too long ago. There's another one. And the third one is actually a very nice deep orange coloration. He likes to hang out on this side of the tank. Actually, I should say she. I need to put that juju out there. So that is all very good news from these guys. And the parents are doing fantastic as well. That is the male up there, just chilling next to that Anthurium pallidiflorum that is kind of regrowing from a seedling stage because I put it somewhere way too wet and it didn't like it very much. So now it's acclimating, and it's going to be sweet. It's going to grow basically leaves that will cover all the way down to the ground level. I'm very happy with how it will grow in. Additionally, some of you may know that I did get a third frog. I got a reverse trio, of course, a 2.1, and the other male is chilling in this bin currently. He is up for sale, so if you are in Canada and are interested in a male Oophaga histrionica, he is in here, and you can DM me on Instagram for more details. Now, continuing the good news train, we have, of course, more frog content. These guys are the Oophaga pumilio Bahia Grande, otherwise known as Cristobal. If you guys are wondering where the labels are from, they're from Cloud Forest Designs, although there are tons of other places that you can get labels from, so just Google it, Etsy it, and you'll find it. Now, we can just take a sec to appreciate how this tank is kind of maturing as well. There are a lot of changes I want to make to it when I get back from my trip, and that is going to be just adding a lot more plants. I got a few more orchids to add in here. I would like to fill in that kind of top back corner there. And yeah, there's just a few modifications that I'd like to make. Chilling in the bromeliad there is the female, and I know I've mentioned it in other videos, but I understand that not everybody watches every video. We do have a froglet of these guys as well. He's growing up very, very well, eating, and he's like tripled or quadrupled in size from the little tiny baby that he was. Oh, did I get that on camera of her just eating it back into the brom? I hope so. Good one. That is the Bahia Grande, and I guess just to kind of make things all cohesive, I will update you on the last dart frogs that we have, and that is the Oophaga pumilio bastimentos. These are the gold dust or cemetery bastimentos. They like to chill kind of deep in these broms. They did actually raise a froglet, and I was very excited to see it and watch it grow, but unfortunately I don't think it's made it. I haven't been through this tank and totally tore it apart to make sure that, you know, it's no longer in there. However, that froglet came out with kind of a malformed front right arm, and I think that might have... Oh, right on cue. Hey there, buddy. That's the male. The froglet, unfortunately, did come out a little bit malformed, so I'm not sure if he's still kicking in there with the parents or if he's passed away. That is typical with the Oophaga genus. Not every frog is going to make it. Some of them have issues, while others don't. So that is the frog date on this video, and I guess we can continue over here. I've been called out in the last few videos for not showing the Thai bamboo ratsnake or my Savu Python ender, and that's for one reason and one reason only. Because a lot of the time, they're not out. At some point, I do aim to make a reptile room tour that shows every single animal with decent footage, and this is not one of those times, unfortunately, because yeah, these guys just aren't always out. Ender is my about 2.5 to 3-year-old Savu Python, or white-eyed python, I think is one of their other common names. And he is from one of my good friends back in Alberta, Cody Joe. If you guys are interested in a relatively small python species that can be a little bit cage defensive, but once you get them out is great, Savu pythons are a great option for you. And maybe some of you guys find yourselves in a little bit colder climates or living in a basement or something like that, and you can't keep the temperature in your room all that high. These guys, the Thai bamboo rat snakes, are an incredible species for you. They really only like temperatures at a maximum of about 78 degrees Fahrenheit. These guys really do make for a very interesting colubrid species for anybody that is looking for a very vibrant, pretty much almost venomous looking snake. They do kind of have the allure of the Batesian mimicry that occurs when a species might not be toxic, but it mimics toxic coloration, and that is what they do very well. Being bright red does a good job of saying, don't eat me. Now, showing Cardinal's tank as it's growing in now, you can see a lot of the live plants are doing very, very well. It's kind of desolate in the middle, and that philodendron over there is doing absolutely fantastic. And in the middle here, you'll notice that we changed out her water dish for a beautiful Vision brand water dish, and that is because Vision is an incredible brand that makes some incredible products. Unfortunately, we don't have any tanks yet, but I'm hoping to get some in the future, and their water dishes just make life so much easier. They're way easier to clean, they don't mold as easy, they're just fantastic. So I do want to thank Vision for sending those out. You'll notice in several of the enclosures, they also all have Vision water dishes. Speaking of Vision, we did get a whole bunch of new bins as well. It's their new line of bins that came out that actually have ventilation in them. So we appreciate that very much, especially with low humidity animals like the hognoses. And you know what? Speaking of the hognoses, we might as well go into it. These guys have all just freshly come out of brumation. So I'm not going to spend too long going through each one because they haven't shed yet and they're still kind of dirty, muddy, and gross looking. But up top, we can start with Lux. This is one of the proven breeder males that we have. Absolutely stunning. This is Bree's second hognose ever. He's actually looking pretty good. A little dirty around the mouth, but overall pretty good. And now, just while I'm talking about the hognoses, I actually got one of our beautiful moon dusts to talk about this, but I'm not going to go into them super in depth today. She is not happy, so, I mean, you guys get to see her, but yeah, that didn't last long. She really did not like being out, but you saw a cool hognose. So I did just want to mention that this will not be the video where I go into a ton of genetics and a ton of detail about the hognoses themselves. That will be dedicated to a separate video that I will link below whenever it's created. It's going to be a little while because I have the 2-week Colombia trip, and then we're waiting for them all to shed so they look their best. And that's where we'll also share all of the breeding plans, as well as the current updates on all the hognoses that we have. We typically show off the breeders, we show off the keeper babies, and then we also show off the ones that we still have remaining from last year. So if you guys are interested in that, check the description in a little while, or, you know, just click that subscribe and like this video because you enjoy hognoses. Sorry for that little intermission. We can continue on with Rowan. She is Bree's very first hognose, and I startled her, but she is going to be producing this year, hopefully, fingers crossed. As you guys can see, she is still looking absolutely whack for a normal anaconda het albino. That is not what a normal het albino conda looks like. It is what it is, I suppose. We do have a video on this. If you search the channel, you guys will see all the kind of theories and thoughts as to what Rowan might be. Continuing on with a moondust. This is Equinox. So she is an Arctic lavender. Absolutely stunning. She's still looking pretty thick. I don't even think she decided to eat, so maybe she's been kind of flirting around with the boys the last few days, so who knows. We will hopefully be producing some lavenders this year, so if you're interested, of course, as you know, follow us on Instagram. All right, now it's rapid fire round. We got Sugarcane, another female. She's a frosted conda. These guys are absolutely stunning. Can't really tell too well in this video, but you can see the frosted influence on her belly there. Bright white. Absolutely stunning. And I'm sorry I disturbed you. I know, I'm the worst. Moving down from Sugarcane, we have Horizon, which is now going to be a breeder for us. And she is a Sunburst. Hi. You're always hungry too, aren't you? Yeah, she looks kind of rough after brumation. Her colors are still pretty orange, to be honest, but you can see all the cake debris and soil around her nose. So that's something that will clear up with the first shed. But this is the reason why we're not like going around showing off these guys on a dedicated video. They're not all looking their best, so we don't want to put them in the spotlight. Speaking of not looking their best, actually, I lied. You look pretty good, not gonna lie. This is our beautiful girl, Syrup. She is a wild type tiger. Yeah, she's kind of just on our normal project. Last year we produced a lot of high-end morphs and stuff. And this year we hope to do a good mixture of both normals, het albinos, albinos, and yeah, she's the kind of main breeder for that project. Getting real close to the ground now, we switch over from hognose territory to kingsnake territory. This is Scoria, Bree's very first gray-banded kingsnake. Getting pretty good size. These guys are probably breeder size, around like 2 to 3 years old, but it's really strongly not recommended. It's really strongly recommended to not produce them or breed them until they're 4 or 5. It basically just means that they're very hardy, they're doing well, they're full grown, fully mature. In the cases that Bree's researched, it's produced much better results in terms of longevity of the adults, as well as the strength of the babies, and the amount of eggs that they produce. So while we could breed her this year, as well as my boy Saguaro, we will not be doing that. We will be leaving that for a couple years from now. And speaking of my boy Saguaro, the very first snake I've ever owned, and that is a Arizona mountain king snake, or Lampropeltis pyromilana, and this is specifically a wooden eye. Cool. You can see how much his colors change when he's out on me versus in the bin with that kind of red lighting. Look at that. Holy smokes. What a snake. What a snake. And now one of the projects that I would really love to do for him is make him like a nice 4x2x2 kind of setup like an Arizona mountainside. I think that would look really cool. It would be a very fun project, and it would be something nice to see him displayed in rather than a bin. I do get him out probably the most of all the snakes just because he's one of my pets. But just note that, yeah, these guys do have plenty of space in here. We will be adding more decorations and such to their enclosures. It's just right now, we literally just got them out of brumation like 2 days ago. So they're all out, they're all fed, and now it's time to spruce up their lives a little bit. While we're on the ground here, I will note that the turtles will not be in this video. Unfortunately, they are currently in brumation still. We'll be taking them out when I get back from my trip. So we will move over to the beautiful Centralian Pebble Dragon, otherwise known as the Tympanocrypsis centralis, as well as the Beaded Geckos, the Leucasium damium. These guys have been kind of roommates for basically their whole lives. He blends in with the warm tone of the basking bulb. I call them like a little pocket bearded dragon. However, they are completely unrelated to bearded dragons. The tympanocrypsis basically means like cryptic or, you know, non-existent ear. And that is because these guys are part of the earless dragon family. And yeah, they don't have ear holes. You'll see on all the geckos and such, they have little ear spots. And he does not. But this is Reggie. He is, like I mentioned, the Centralian Pebble Dragon or Central Pebble Dragon. Fantastic species. This is one of the lizards that actually ended up we got gifted to us from one of our good friends, along with the purchase of those guys back there, the Leucasium damium, or the Beaded Geckos, as they're aptly named. And Reggie here, the Centralian Pebble Dragon, is truly one of those animals that I would love to get more of and produce in captivity, because they are not produced in captivity all that often. Certainly not here in Canada or really North America. As usual, they are an Australian species, so, you know, all the animals that we have representation in captivity are captive bred, but it would be great to have these guys in the North American hobby at higher numbers rather than just the one that I know of in Canada. I know there are a few more in the States, but they're really not often talked about, and they're not nearly as popular as they should be. These guys, while they're not puppy dogs like bearded dragons, they're very cool. They have a shorter lifespan, which for most keepers is a good thing. The beaded geckos, they're full-on derps. I love them more than anything. They're always a bundle of entertainment and feeding videos. You guys get a good couple clips of them in that feeding video. And yeah, I would highly recommend watching it, if for nothing else than just the cute videos of these guys trying their best to catch crickets, because they're really terrible at it. They are currently in an 18 by 18 by 12 Exoterra. However, we do have in the works a 24 by 18 by 18 Exoterra being built for them, and we cannot wait to move them in there. And yes, don't worry, there will be a video showing that build and showing how charismatic these little goobers truly are. Coffee time! Man, I'm almost out. Might have to get a refill. Or maybe just water. Maybe we'll just go with water. We ended up redoing a few things with the top of this rack, namely redoing the Boiga tank, adding a Chahoua tank, which is now housing a pair of Chahoua, and the Mourning Geckos were already up here, I'm pretty sure, in the last video that you guys saw. But let's dive into the beautiful Boiga Nigroceps, who are, as usual, completely absent. No Boiga are out currently. This is not their final habitat. This is much smaller than we want to keep them in. We are just waiting to switch them into a tank this size or even bigger. We might actually get a 36 tall enclosure and put it so it goes basically just to the very bottom of that light there, and we'll provide a little bit more space for them. You'll see the babies in a little while when we go over to the baby / grow out rack. And yeah, you guys will enjoy their beautiful presence there. Well, I was so hyped to show you guys the Chahoua enclosure. However, both of them are mostly hiding. We have Kestrel, who is one of our new males, but I did manage to see, I believe that's Kestrel down here. Yep, definitely Kestrel. So that's the male. And Lark is the very first Chahoua that we ever produced, or very first clutch, I should say. She's also in here. She's breeding age now. She's laid a few duds, and she is ready to go on the adventure of producing some beautiful little baby Chahoua. In terms of their tank, though, I think Bree killed it. It looks great. Got a bunch of cork everywhere. I'm very happy with how this turned out. Some live plants. We got the Dracaena Jenny Craig, something like that, as well as a Sansevieria, which is now also a Dracaena in the back there. Gotta love that. And now we can move on to the Mourning Geckos. The Mourning Geckos are doing very well. Their tank is definitely a little lackluster, and that's definitely on the list of things to redo. However, it's not at the top of the list, so it will be still several months before we get that done, but they're doing fantastic. If you guys don't know a whole lot about Mourning Geckos or Lepidodactylus lugubres, they are pretty much all female. They all reproduce via asexual reproduction, which basically means they're clones of themselves. They have very cool genetics to go into them, and I won't go into it in this video because that would make this video 20 minutes longer, but they are a fantastic gecko. They're very neat, they're vocal. Oh, there we go. Hello. They don't look like a whole lot. That's a bit of a better view of one right back there. They're very cryptic, very cool. They vocalize. They're easy to take care of. I mean, I know a lot of people already have mourning geckos, but these are definitely one of those geckos that you can find for fairly cheap. However, a lot of the care videos on the internet are absolutely atrocious for them, so maybe I should work on a care video. I will do that once I get their new tank set up and ready to go. But yeah, now that you've seen that little gem in the back of the enclosure, I guess that is a check for the mourning gecko list, and we can move down to the middle rack here, where again, we have redone another tank, and this is the Chahoua tank that we've had paired for quite a while. So we have the female right here, just chilling at the top of her log, and a lot of times the male is also just sitting right there, which he might be there just slightly further down than what the camera can see. But this is, again, an 1824 Exoterra set up with live plants, and a fake one now, because for whatever reason, that pot in the back just does not grow any plants. I don't know if it maybe has something to do with them just chilling up there or what, but it's not growing any plants. So we changed it out, and now we still have a very naturalistic looking enclosure. Technically, it's bioactive. It's got live plants, it's got inverts. I prefer the term naturalistic, and that's what we're going to go with. So that is the pair of Chahoua that are just chilling here. We have my pair of the beautiful Tachydromus dorsalis. This is, I'm going to go ahead and say it, my favorite lizard species in the room. These guys are just so personable. They're a lot of fun. They're easy to keep, and they're not super well known in the hobby yet. To me, they're my own personal little mini monitors, and to you, they can be as well. Let me know in the comments if you guys saw him just dangling from the branches up top. Very, very cute and personable. They're a lot of fun. This is Midori and Turok. This currently houses a pair. The male is currently just chilling up there, as you guys already saw. And I'm thinking Midori, I know they're getting up there in age, so I'm thinking that I'm going to give her this year off and move her into one of the 12x18s just for the year and kind of let her cycle through, regain some of the health and some XP as well, because she's a hardcore gamer. But I'm actually going to pair him with my other female, and unfortunately, it's only one female that I have. The male ended up passing away. Really hard to say exactly why. I'm assuming some sort of parasite. We did treat it for coccidia and worms and several other different treatments, but it never got any better, and I think he might have just been a little bit too far gone. So yeah, we do have this unrelated female, and I'm really hoping that she does some cool things for us this year. She doesn't have a name, so if you guys have any cool name suggestions for her, let me know in the comments down below. And as I mentioned, one of my favorite species, you can see his tail just draped throughout the leaf canopy. And honestly, I think this is one of the best ways to set up their enclosure. It was kind of unintentional. I just planted this Ficus benjamina in there. It overgrew the tank, created a huge dense canopy. I went back and hacked it back, still leaving a few branches for them to hang out on because they do like to hang out up there so much. And I think it is kind of the style that I recommend to anybody that's setting up a tank for these guys. Lots of branches, some thinner cork branches, just a lot of places for them to kind of get away from each other. And in this case, they love to hang out in the forest canopy, just like they would in the wild. They are a more canopy species versus all the rest of the Tachydromus. They show that by their size. I am going to limit my rambling about my favorite species in the room and go to one of my second favorites, or kind of top honorable mentions at least, top contenders for sure, and that is the Tachydromus smaragdinus. These guys are kind of the cousin to the Tachydromus dorsalis. As you can see, the females are, again, a nice bright lime green. Absolutely stunning. And if I can find the male, which now should be a bit easier because I did go through and hack apart this terrarium because holy crow was it overgrown. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, A, why? B, you would have seen that I did end up trimming this back very dramatically about 2 days ago, and so far it's doing well. Basically just redid the entire tank. Now there's a lot more light getting to the bottom to allow for some different plants. We planted that spider plant, Chahoua amata, I think. I hacked back that ficus just so it would make for a much more open terrarium. These guys do exhibit a very strong form of sexual dichromatism, which basically means that the males and females are two very different colors. He's just chilling there, but we'll be able to see kind of the different colors in the next tank as I'm going to show you guys the baby army that we have been growing for a little while now. These guys are a hoot to raise, and their babies are so much fun to watch grow and interact with each other. What's really cool about the Tachyderma smaragdinus is that the males can actually live together. I did end up selling a pair of males to a customer because he just wanted two, and I had two males, so I let him know. I've had no issues keeping them together, and so far I'm happy to report that neither has he. I'm comfortable enough to say that they are doing well. Those males are now likely breeding age, and if they're not fighting yet, then I would say that that is decent enough evidence to share that the males can live together if given a big enough tank. And now we can exhibit the sexual dichromatism. Right there, you can see, actually that's a female right on top. That is one of the males. And are you a female? Oh, you are. Nice, perfect. So man, it's having a really hard time with all these branches. But yeah, you can see the males there have a really nice brown lateral line down the side of their entire body. And the females, like I showed you the adults, are just plain and simple green. An incredible species that I really recommend everybody try and keep. You can find the Tachyderma sexlineatus often wild caught at most pet stores, so I don't recommend buying those, but you can also find breeders of them like myself and a few friends here in Canada that have little groups of these guys and swear by they are one of the coolest lizards you can ever own. And a good handful of these guys will actually be going to one of my friends, Zach on Instagram. If you guys don't know him, you guys must have had your head buried under a log for the past about a year or so, several months, that's for sure. Zach is A Life Exotic. Many of you will know that name from the beautiful reptile and fish and amphibian greenhouse that he's currently making. That is where these guys are destined. At least several of them. Don't know how many yet, but Zach, I hope you're stoked, and I hope you've made it this far into this video because, hi. Now, before we go to the Scaphiophrine, or the absolutely stunning Madagascan rain frogs, I did just want to quickly update the last couple tanks of the Tachyderma dorsalis that I have, and that is these guys here. They're about a year old now. Not quite. They're like 8 months old or so. They're doing great. There's two in here. One has sold. They're just cute as can be. Oh, there's the other one there. I spotted them. Gotcha. Now, before moving on to the last tank, we have two remaining babies from the group number 2, which was her up here, who's big vibin', as well as the male that unfortunately passed. And these guys are doing absolutely wonderful. I did just set up this tank, so obviously some of the plants are still acclimating, although not all that well. And they are just settling in very, very well. You can see that they're chilling at the very tippity top of their tank. These guys are unsexable. I actually don't know when I'll be able to tell the sex of them, because they are just so similar in size and head shape. I imagine it might end up being like a scale count or kind of a visual inspection for potentially some pores, but definitely before I ship these guys out, or at least one of these guys out, I will be investigating that further. There's not really a whole lot of information about these guys online, which sucks. I will be making a bit of a care guide for these guys in the coming months, so for those of you that are interested in them, we do have a care sheet for them, but I do want something that's a little bit more comprehensive. And now the very last tank of dorsalis is this little 8x8x12 Exoterra, and this houses our little Gimpmeister. That is this little baby right here. Believe it or not, he was actually hatched at the same time as the smaller one, the one that's still up top. But as you can tell, this one has had a much rougher go, and unfortunately I have noticed with Tachypodromus dorsalis that they are much harder to raise in groups. Typically there ends up being competition, and unfortunately in this case, this one has had the rougher end of the stick, and this one is just one that we decided to separate, raise entirely separately, because he had, unfortunately, his tail bitten off. Fortunately enough, these guys regrow their tails extremely well, like to the point of where the scalation even lines up. To add salt into the wound, it looks like his other hand, not this one, was actually broken. It just happened a few days ago, so I'll be chatting with my vet about that. But at this size, I really don't think there's anything we can do besides let it heal, and it will heal the way it heals. If you're watching this, vet, let me know. In good news though, he is eating well, he's regrowing his tail already, and he's still very active, so I'm confident that he will make a very full, speedy recovery and be none the wiser to his injuries that have occurred by his fellow brethren down there. You know, I believe it's in a Jurassic Park movie where they say,
life finds a way.
I think this is the perfect example of life finds a way. Look at that. Definitely means I need to get in there, trim it up, and then we'll continue kind of bonsaiing this little ficus. The second to last tank that we have to cover up top shelf on this rack is the beautiful Urodactylodes symmetricus, otherwise known as the large-scaled Chameleon Gecko. I have been an advocate for these guys ever since Bree introduced them to me. I honestly think they're a better pet than like crested geckos, frankly bearded dragons, because they're a lot easier to keep and require a lot less space. They're very, very personable. We don't spend a whole lot of time with these guys, you know, handling them or anything like that, but they are still very easily handleable, even for a beginner. You can basically place these in your hand and they'll just chill. They might walk a little bit, but you're certainly not going to have any cresties flying at random directions. And that's a bonus for somebody whose first pet gecko doesn't sail off their hand into the ground and then they panic. And with that being said, they're being kept in a 12x12x18. This is a male and a female pair. You can see up here, that is the female. They have some live plants, some fake plants. Fake plant is in the back there. The live plant is Peperomia obtusifolia, if in case anybody's wondering. And they're doing fantastic. We do also have some little babies that I'll highlight a little bit later in the video. Final little tank that we have to cover on this shelf is the Diplodactylus galeatus, otherwise known as the helmeted geckos. These are, again, another very cute charismatic species from Australia. There's one just chilling down there. The problem with the Australian geckos that I notice is a lot of times they look like they're dead. They sleep like they're dead in the worst positions. They never are. Definitely a little bit panic-inducing the first time you walk in and see one splayed out on a rock in the middle of the tank. Like, what happened? And then you go in there and he bounces back to life and you're like, wait, what? Hi, you think there's food coming? You're wrong, but you're very cute. And you guys can see why I really love these guys. They're just one of the cutest geckos that we have ever kept. There's cool geckos, but these guys are cute as a button. I think it is important to note that these guys will be getting upgraded from this 12x12x12 Exoterra down to that one over there, which is the 18x18x12 Exoterra. It will be redone and cleaned and all that stuff. Again, these are just future plans I'm rattling off to you guys. All right, moving on. We have a blank spot because we removed 2 of the 12x12x18s from this in order to pair the Chahoua. And now the Tackies took up one of those spaces, so we have space for an empty one. I do want to cover our beautiful Western Shield Spiny-tailed Gecko, otherwise known as the Strophoris wellingtoni. Oh, are we even going to be able to see her? She's got like diamond eyes. So stunning. Just a remarkable species. Probably the only one in the country. She is available, although we're definitely in no rush to sell her, so she's not a small price tag. Importing into Canada is no problem. Getting these guys to the States is much more difficult and currently not possible, although that can change at any time, so if you guys are interested, definitely let us know. Very, very unique species of gecko that you do not see often. Moving on to the next tank here, we have our beautiful female wallflower. We got her in an auction, actually, from Sundown Reptiles. Stunning coloration. I don't really know if it's picking up all that well in camera, but she's a very like raspberry colored Chahoua in a way, with a white collar. We're already at the last Chahoua, but it is worth noting that all of the Chahoua that we have are technically PIs. There's some debate, and a lot of the very experienced Chahoua keepers argue that there is no actual difference, and the difference of the PI to the mainland is actually mostly just breeding failing over the course of generations rather than having two actual different locales. I don't want to go into it in this video, but there's some food for thought for you guys. If you guys want to look into it, feel free, and let me know what you find in the comments down below. Stunning Chahoua, and I'm very happy to have her. We have covered the dart frogs. And now down here, if you guys haven't watched the last reptile room tour I made like 3-4 months ago, we do have blue histronica from Tesoros de Colombia, and I will be going there to film a video for your faces whilst I'm in Colombia. So if you guys are excited to see some very cool large obligates as well as other rare species of dart frog, make sure you subscribe to the channel and stick around. We do have another one in here, not out, and I'm not going to hunt for them. There's a third one. I think this is a she. No eggs yet to confirm, but whew, what a stunner. These guys are one of my favorite frogs. Ever since I saw them years ago, I have known that I would love to get them. Never did I think it would be possible, and soon they will have a brand new tank mimicking this tank here, but just copy paste this over there and it'll take up the whole rack. So very excited for that day. All right, we are kind of coming up on the last few portions of the reptile room tour. I'm going to start down here because Vulcan's actually out, which is great. There he is down there, just chilling. Still don't really know what's going on with his toes. You can see a couple of them are kind of inflamed. After looking into it, there could be a couple different issues. Some say gout, some say some stuck shed, although I don't see any, and I don't think that would cause the whole toe to inflame like that. I don't think it's that. I have a feeling it's gout. Can't find a whole lot of advice about it, so if you know anything about it, let me know. I'm definitely all ears because I want him to be very happy and healthy. He is acting very normal, and there's nothing really wrong with him per se. It's just it would be nice to get it under control, and I know gout you can't really reverse, but it would be definitely nice to stop it from progressing. Vulcan is a yellow Ackie monitor, Varanus acanthoris, or a ridgetail monitor, or a spiny tail monitor, or whatever you want to call him. He was produced by my good friend Cody Joe as well. Gotta love supporting your friends. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's well behaved. He doesn't bite. Well, unless you go in there with crickets in your hand, then maybe he would. But if you're, smart about your approach, he is very well behaved. This whole rack is custom 4x2x2 wood enclosures. The two darker ones are by Hammer Habitats, and this one is good. And this one is built by one of my buddies in Calgary. Up here we have Breeze, beautiful blue-tongued skink Indy. He is kind of a dirt monkey as well. Indy is very well behaved. Will hopefully come out. Hi, buddy. You gonna join us? Or are you just gonna sit there? I'm not gonna spend too much time on Indy because he's just chilling. But he does have a 4x2x2, as I mentioned. He's got UVB. He's got a basking spot, water dish. These are all fake plants, but it's very hard to keep plants alive in a wooden tank because it's hard to keep soil saturated enough to grow live plants while also not rotting out the wood. Go figure. Indy is Breeze, blue-tongued skink. And last but not least on the stack of the beautiful 4x2s are the goofballs, Hugo and Greta. Greta's probably chilling under that little rock there. Hey, buddy. Yeah. Hi. Such a good boy. I love Hugo so much. He is so charismatic, super friendly, especially for what was a wild-caught animal and is now, I guess, a long-term captive. He is just dazzling with personality. His colors are incredible. Very happy with him. And if you guys, again, have been longtime viewers, you'll know that I had an orange Uromastyx female named Olga. And I talked about it a little bit in their last reptile room tour, but unfortunately, Olga did pass away. We believe of natural causes. I can't really do any necropsies or anything. It's just not really feasible. It won't really garner any definitive answers as to why she passed. Typically with these guys, it's like ovarian disease, Sometimes it's lack of hydration. However, I don't think that was the case because I do miss these guys. I do give them baths every so often, and I ensure that their salads are soaked in water. And lastly, I also feed them some Missouri, which is soaked in water and completely waterlogged. So I really don't think it was dehydration. That is the story of Olga, and I would love to show Greta off, but she is chilling under the rock. So Greta is the female that one of my good friends, Darren, ended up gifting me. And she's a little bit younger. She's also a yellow Uromastyx juri female, so a little bit different looking, but still a very cool personality. And after I first got her, I didn't see her for like a month. She was just hiding all the time we were in the room. And now she's finally out and about and eating and doing more things. It is just fantastic when a reptile feels a little bit more comfortable around you, enough to come out, eat, chill, and live their best life in their beautiful vivarium. All right, we've come to what is pretty much the very end of the reptile room. And then we also have this little goober out here that I'll show at the very end of the video. We'll start off with this rack here. Up top here, I'm not going to go through every single animal because there is so many of them. But here, we have little baby Urodactylodes symmetricus. Look how cute they are. They're tiny. That's my finger next to them. They're doing their Chameleon Gecko thing. That's actually where they get their name, Chameleon Gecko. And they kind of inch along the branches. But like, as you get close to them, they go around the other side of the branch, just like a chameleon does. They do that in order to evade your visual eyesight. This is our last baby Chahoua that is available for purchase. I'm only going to show off one of the baby Chahoua because the other two are actually sold. This is the only one that is still available. It's hard to get a true sense of color, but you can see some of the patterning on this one. I don't want them fleeing the bin, so I got to be kind of careful. And if you guys are like me, when Bree got into Chahoua and I was kind of adopted into it, I didn't know that the coloration of the Chahoua when they hatch is not nearly what they'll end with and be their most vibrant colors with. But this one has some nice forest greens, a lot of peach tones to it. This is going to be a stunning adult. Even adults really don't reach their full coloration until about 2 to 4. And then after that, they typically tend to dull out just a little bit. Very, very cool. Something you guys might not have known. I certainly didn't know till Bree educated me a little bit on them. So up on the rack again, we have a beautiful male Urodactylodes symmetricus. He was actually just auctioned off on Morph Market. So if you guys don't follow us there, make sure you do. Keep an eye on the Jungle Vaults page on Morph Market, and you guys will be alerted when there are some new beautiful auctions going live. You can get some really cool animals for a great deal. Orb is chilling in here. We did upgrade his little hut into one of the tarantula cribs, kind of slightly larger enclosures than what he was in previously. He's doing great. He actually just molted today. You guys can see there. It's still kind of hardening up. Around here in this kind of weird Amazon tank that we bought, Amazon.ca, not Amazon the rainforest. I don't know why I clarified that, but here we are. And I say weird because it distorts the vision. See? You guys can see that. But from this side, it's fine. It's really weird. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's some weird coating or what, but you guys could see there, the little baby Kingsnakes occipitalis that we hatched out about 1.5 years ago is doing fantastic. He's growing like a weed, and his parents are actually not there. They're missing. That's because they're in brumation along with the turtles. We're hoping to be able to produce more of these captive bred because they are one of the best starter snakes that I can ever imagine. They stay tiny, they eat insects. Those are typically like the two main gripes that parents especially will have with their kid when they say, "Hey mom, dad, I want a snake." They think, ew, frozen mice in the freezer, and it gets huge. This breaks both of those thoughts. I already showed you what is in these two bins, and in this bin here, we have Stu, the American toad, just vibing. He's definitely growing, and that means that he will be needing an upgrade soon as well. We love him here on the channel. He is called the TriToad because one of his back legs is actually missing the foot part of it, which makes him unique, I suppose is a good way to explain it. He's a happy, healthy toad, eats like a champ, refuses to move when we want to put back the water dish. So originally we got him just given to us, not that we wanted him, as kind of like a feeder and or something to scent the feeders, and we've never done that he's way too cute for that. So he's currently just chilling. And we can move on to the last main portion of this video. I'm definitely going to try and fly through this last kind of grow out slash baby rack. A lot of it has just come out of brumation and isn't looking its best. And most of them are hognoses, which we will be doing that separate video for. So with that being said, I will show you guys baby Boiga. This one is actually Johnny Venom, if you guys follow him on Instagram. This is his little snake. We produced here captive bred at the Jungle Vault, and it will be shipped to the US on the first export to the US. And we have none of these guys available anymore. We actually sold them all. So absolutely stunning species of Boiga, at least in my eyes. Very chill for the most part. Very cool. Just different, I would say. We do have a couple other ones, but they are sold already, so I'm not going to bother going through those. Just figured I'd show you Johnny's, and I guess that's an update for Johnny, but I don't think he watches these videos. I'm going to pick 3 hognoses to share with you guys, but before I do so, we got to show off little Strikezilla. You're still doing fantastic. And I got a question on my feeding video, the last video I posted. Why is he in this bin? And I know a lot of the viewers of the Reptile Room tours know. It's because he's lost a lot of mobility in his back legs. He's an old leopard gecko approaching 20 now. Actually, he is 20, I believe. He definitely doesn't have the same spunk that he had when he was a baby. The lack of mobility meant that he wasn't able to traverse his naturalistic habitat nearly as effectively, and I made the executive decision to move him into a bin. It pains me, believe me. This is my oldest pet, the oldest animal in this room. It really means a lot that he does well. I would much rather see him alive. He probably would have passed away if I kept him in that old enclosure because he just wasn't able to get to the heat. I love you, buddy, and that's why he's in this bin. I have selected my 3 hognoses to share with you all. We're going to start with a lavender tiger het albino. This is Avalon. She is a beautiful example of a lavender and a tiger as well. She's got very continuous stripes almost down the entirety of her whole body, and she doesn't miss a meal. She can be a little spunky at times. The lighting isn't necessarily the best over here, so you're not really getting the full lavender experience, but trust me, if you guys were to see her in person, you guys would be shocked at just how purple the hue on the lavenders really is. One of my favorite hognoses, that's for sure. Not necessarily personality-wise, as you can see. She's doing a full cobra. Whoa! Nope. Look at her. Look how spicy she is. All right. Time for one of the newest snakes and the only hognose that we'll be adding to the room this year. I'm making Bree hold to that promise, and that is Pompeii. He is an absolute stunner. Look how crazy he looks. Holy smokes, I'm taking him out here. He is a crazy, I believe he's like an RBE pastel paradox. He's got a whole bunch of different stuff in him, so this just is one heck of a snake. I do want to thank our good friend Mike from MKL. I never dreamed of owning, Bree never dreamed of owning, but here we are. And the final hognose that we're going to show off is Sauza here. She is actually a Mexican hognose snake. So she's got a whole different vibe about her that I want to show off because I didn't really think they looked any different to the Western hognose snakes. But now that we have them in hand, look how clean that head pattern is. Oh boy. Very kind of mottled patterning all the way down her back. A combination of kind of the brown, typical Western, normal hognose snakes and black. They just are very different, which is crazy. As she goes away, that is a mature adult female. Like, she is breeder ready. Insane. They're tiny. And the male, I said I wouldn't show any others, but the male is even smaller. And he's also a mature adult. Like, he would easily fit in the palm of my hand. Don't want to scare him. I'll leave him be. Very stoked to have added those to the room. We got them about 4.5 months ago. And they just went straight into brumation. That's why you guys never saw them. And now the last ones to show off are my beautiful girl, Sedona, the female Lampropeltis pyramulana woodeni, Sedona, another Arizona mountain king snake. And then, of course, we have Cinder, gray-banded king snake. Hi, buddy. Well, now I gotta move this. Thanks for that. But we get to see how beautiful you are. I always show these guys off in the Reptile Room tours. Just beautiful coloration. How evolution came to these colors is beyond me, but wow, am I happy it did. Asher, who is right over here, is again the same story, but another extremely clean gray banded king snake. stunning. What a crazy cool species of snake. And now the final piece of the reptile room puzzle, the 4x2x4 custom background by Universal Rock, the American rarity, Mr. Tatoka, who's in the middle of a deep shed. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. This is a Fijian banded iguana, otherwise known as a Brachylophus bula bula, that is specifically the central Fijian banded iguana. Surprisingly, even though we don't work with him a ton in terms of handling and whatnot, he is still very surprisingly handleable. Once you get him out, he kind of runs a little bit at his enclosure, but once you get him out, he is quite chill, just vibing. You can see the kind of teals in his scale, the beautiful glimmer in his eye. Fijian banded iguanas are by far the best iguana for the average keeper, rather than having a 6-foot male green iguana that will take up your entire house. These guys are really quite lax in terms of their daily activity. There's a good chance that we leave him here today and we come back tomorrow and he is in the exact same spot. And it's not because this enclosure is cold or not the right parameters for him. They truly are just that lazy, I'll say. Keep that in mind. If you are in Canada and you want a green iguana, while the Fijian banded iguanas are much more expensive, they are the better pet. 100% of the time. I don't care who you are. It is nearly impossible to take care of a green iguana to proper parameters unless you're in Florida and can keep it outside, but for all I know, that's probably illegal now. So if you can, Fijian banded iguanas are the right iguana for you. And friends, we made it. We made it to the end of the reptile room tour. I finished my coffee like an hour ago. This has taken over 2 hours to record, so I really hope you enjoyed spending your time watching my time. And if everybody gets that reference, let me know in the comments down below who I kind of loosely borrowed that saying from. I really want to thank you guys all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click that like button. If you want to see more reptile content in the future and all of the travel videos coming from Colombia, definitely click subscribe and tap the bell next to it. That way you get notified every time I post a video. I truly want to take a second and just thank you guys all very much for watching. This YouTube thing has taken over a crazy amount of my life, and while it's not my full-time job, I still work a full-time job. It's amazing the community that I've built here over the past like 13 years. If you're one of those people from the very beginning, I want to thank you. If you remember Moose and Bean, the Lygodactylus williamsi, let me know down below because that would just warm my heart to hear. I say that because we are approaching 100,000 subscribers. I don't know, I'm honestly speechless. I don't know what to say. It is a crazy achievement. I just can't wait to keep making videos for you guys. Educational, fun, and reptile room tours, whatever that molds into. Thank you all very much for being here. If you made it to the end of the video, comment Colombia and jungle somewhere in your comment and I'll know that you made it to the very end. Thank you all sincerely from the bottom of my heart. I hope you guys enjoyed and we'll catch you from the jungles of Colombia.